I'm not sure whether Nokia designed the N9 and the similar Lumia 800 to look and feel totally different to any Apple iPhone in order to avoid any possible future lawsuit, or simply because it's, well, maybe a better way to build a phone. The end result is rather stunning though. A solid block of polycarbonate into which Nokia has milled out the inside, built the phone innards, and then topped it off with a convex Gorilla Glass screen with oleophobic coating that works superbly with the swipey nature of Windows Phone, and which melds somewhat beautifully into the curves of the Lumia 800's body. I found myself, well, fondling it all day. You will excuse me for sounding a little over the top, and don't worry, there are some negatives coming too, but the design itself will prove something of a classic, I suspect, in similar vein to the iPhones and even to the legendary Nokia N95, as a form factor that many will remember, well, with affection. Build quality is incredible too, with one caveat, in this case a slightly rattly shutter key. I'm sure Nokia will sort this out on the production line. The Lumia 800 is a one-piece design and feels very, very solid in the hand. But this does come at a price. No changeable battery, no card expansion from the built-in 16GB, though the latter is also because Windows Phone doesn't yet support expansion cards yet. Yes, it's Windows Phone Mango, again, following my Titan review in Phone Show 155, and in a much more, well, mainstream form factor. This is very similar to the size of the likes of the Nexus S and the N8. Both phones I really rate highly, and feels like a phone rather than a mini tablet. Having said that, Windows Phone on a 3.7-inch screen is really the bare minimum. The OS is so much more usable and readable on the 4.3-inch screened HD7 and the 4.7-inch screen Titan, but you have to compromise somewhere. I would argue that Nokia has compromised a little too much. There's a good centimetre of bezel here at the top and almost another centimetre of bezel here at the bottom below the capacitive control buttons, plus 6mm on either side. That's a lot of device real estate which should really have been the screen, and the same 3.9-inch screen from the N9 could perhaps have been used here, I think, with the buttons below. But what do I know about the wonders of smartphone innards? Aside from that, the Lumia 800 is a 1.4 GHz processor and the usual Windows Phone 512MB of RAM, so things zip right along, whether web browsing with the excellent Internet Explorer 9, paging through social updates with the super swishy People Hub, or working with Office documents. And the Windows Phone marketplace is almost up with iOS and Android now, I think, in terms of useful applications. Forget the hundreds of thousands numbers. It's what's actually useful, what people actually use, and disregarding all the novelties and all the junk. Nokia has added a few of its own properties to Windows Phone here. Nokia Drive is the voice-guided sat-nav part of Nokia Maps from Symbian, simplified and optimized for car navigation, with Nokia Maps here also as a standalone and rather competing with the similar Bing Maps. Expect the latter to get dropped in 2012 firmware. Nokia Music includes mixed radio, effectively genre-based internet radio, and rather smoothly done, with personalized playlists and the ability to save any of them for offline playback, perhaps when you're flying or on the tube. Very nice. You don't even have to sign in. It's totally free, totally username anonymous, forever. Not bad. General music playback is good too, with a touch of the volume keys cleverly bringing the music controls to the foreground, whatever else you're doing on the phone, ready for pausing or skipping around. Very nice. The supplied stereo headphones are outer ear fitting and very lossy to the world around you. They work well enough with okay sound, and a cool pickup button doubles as a pause control, but I prefer a set of proper in-ears. Very sadly, all the traditional Nokia multimedia headsets don't work with Windows Phone on this device. I tried. Very happily though, stereo Bluetooth, that's A2DP, does work well with the Lumia 800. I use the budget Nokia BH214 with their in-ear headphones, and they all work perfectly for media control. Phew. The 3.5mm jack is beautifully inset in the top of the Lumia, though with the supplied rubber slip case in place, some third-party headphone jacks, they do get fouled and can't be inserted completely. Also on the top panel is a little flip-up hatch for micro USB and charging, plus a slide and flip-up micro SIM holder, all very well engineered. Plugging the Lumia 800 into a PC requires a Zoom desktop for backups, media loading and firmware updating, though Mac owners shouldn't feel too disheartened, as there's the rather natty Windows Phone 7 connector, which is more bare bones but does the same job. Audio can also be played back over the built-in speaker here on the Lumia 800's bottom. This is max volume. It's a tiny bit tinny really, on a par with Nokia's C7 and E6, but nowhere near the quality of the N8, for example, let alone the X6. When watching media that you've side-loaded, the picture quality at least comes to life with lovely OLED colours that utterly put traditional LCD screens to shame. Again, it's a shame that the display wasn't slightly bigger, but it's still beautiful with Nokia's clear black display technology ensuring you can see everything on screen in all light conditions. Another avenue for watching movies would be YouTube, though there's no actual YouTube client installed by default, which seems a missed opportunity. There's the official client in the Windows Phone Marketplace, which works okay, but it's basically smoke and mirrors because it's just a view on the YouTube mobile website. I installed MetroTube, well worth a few pennies in the marketplace and providing a proper Metro UI experience and offer higher quality video streams. You can capture your own video too, of course. The Lumia 800's camera is small, but roughly the same size as that in the iPhone 4S and the Galaxy S2, though it's limited here to 720p capture by Windows Phone itself. The default is VGA, oddly, but it's easy enough to up this and to save settings.
This is test video footage at 720p on the Nokia Lumia 800. Audio quality is not bad, but also not brilliant, not up to the digital quality on the N8 running Symbian. What's interesting is that, like most Windows phones, there's intelligent zoom in a video mode. Watch this. Here's zooming in by about 3 times. Watch the detail level increase. There we are, obviously shakier because we're zoomed in so far, but look at the extra detail there, using the full sensor, even though the zoom is digital rather than optical. So zoomed out again, let's investigate the continuous autofocus. It takes a couple of seconds to establish itself, and this can be annoying if you change the scene too quickly, i.e. by panning. So this should work fine. Now focused on the grass in the winter sunshine. Now if I take it up, this should then refocus again. But when the whole scene is changing, for example panning round, it sometimes takes a while to lock on.
Still photos are either 8 megapixels and 4:3 ratio, or an unusual and rather clever 7 megapixels and 16:9 widescreen. As you'll see here, the photos are pretty good most of the time too, even if nowhere near the results from the Nokia N8 or even the iPhone 4S. Updates are needed too. The current firmware currently occasionally gets colours horribly wrong, and the focusing reticle gives no clue whatsoever as to whether it's locked on. Come on Nokia, this is fixable. Slightly less fixable is the appallingly vulnerable camera glass here, central in the body, right where greasy fingerprints are liable to get left. Yes, every other smartphone's camera is more or less as vulnerable, but that doesn't make it right. Rant to rant. At least the aforementioned supplied rubber sleeve helps by spacing the camera glass away by another millimetre or 2. Battery life is quite good so far, certainly through a day. The battery is 1450 mAh and seemingly up to the job, and Nokia is promising an additional update to increase battery life still further. Assuming you're signed on with the whole Windows Phone concept, so you're okay with no card expansion, no Bluetooth transfers, a reliance on a desktop computer but no USB disk mode, etc., then the Lumia 800 does compete well with the HTC Titan for this title of platform flagship. The Titan has an even better display and better camera and speakers, but is a two-piece design, has dubious antenna connections, and, well, it's rather large. The Lumia feels more solid, more reliable, and altogether more usable as a phone, fitting in any pocket or case. The only slight problem with the Lumia 800 is that it exists in a very competitive marketplace. You can, for example, get a Samsung Galaxy S2 for the same money at current prices on SIM-free or contract with arguably better everything, plus a removable battery and expandable storage. Which means that to go for the Lumia 800, you're going to have to be smitten by the form factor, by the looks, and by the feel. And that, dear viewers, is a personal thing. Yes, the Lumia 800 will come down in price a lot. I think it'll end up eventually around £300 in the UK. And yes, it's a very decent device to review or to own, but the one I'm really waiting for is the mythical and purely hypothetical Lumia 900. Imagine this styling and form factor, but 4.3-inch screen, better camera, better speakers, NFC, forward-facing camera. Imagine that. Imagine that.